Yeah, look, I know. They are. I guarantee you they are. What? I'm telling you that the Dawahists on social media are the worst spokesmen for Islam in the entire world. What, you don't believe me? Well, why don't you watch my video and find out just exactly how bad they are? I have tons and tons of examples. Yeah, I think I might just do a series of videos on the horrible, why they're such terrible spokesmen for Islam in the entire world. You don't believe me? Well, watch and see. This is just actually one of the better ones. No, not really. I don't know. I mean, there used to be the Raspberry Awards? Yeah, Raspberry Awards for the worst movies ever. And I'll tell you, the competition with these guys is really good. Maybe we should have once a month give a raspberry to the worst Taoist argument for Islam in the world. Yeah, if you want to, if you want to submit one, I'd be more than happy. All you gotta do is contact me. Yep. Okay. See you then. Yeah, as I told my friend that the Taoists that you see on social media, especially Facebook and YouTube, are the worst spokesmen for Islam on planet Earth. Absolutely. And I'm going to give you an example here in this little presentation of slides. So just bear with me as we move on. Now, you notice that, my Muslim friends, if you're going to invite me to Islam, you're going to have to do a better job, because the only people who you're fooling are those more ignorant or dishonest than yourself. Really, I mean, there's only two choices here. Okay, you're either ignorant of what we believe, and most of you are, or or if you do know something, then you're dishonest because you go out of your way to misrepresent what we believe. And this is what we saw this morning. Jesus is a servant. Is a servant. I suppose his friend did not put the A in there, but that's beside the point. He is not God. And then he misquotes Acts 3:13, and I'll show you in a moment how he misquotes it. And the verse is quoted out of context. I mean, does context have any, or does this individual have any regard to context? He has said, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of our fathers, has raised his servant Jesus. Oh, Allahu Akbar. That must mean Jesus isn't God because he's a servant. Really like someone to explain how. Well, first of all, he's starting with the wrong premise. And is God the Son a servant to God the Father? Well, in a sort of a way he is. Jesus came as a servant, as prophesied in Isaiah, and we'll like I said, but we'll take a closer look in a moment. Let's read this in its context. So let's look at the context. Here is basically is that Peter is on his way to the temple. Peter and John are on the way to the temple, and they've healed a man who was crippled, and people had seen him always begging. They were always giving him a few alms, but this day they see the man. And as it says, he's walking and leaping and praising God. He's in the temple praising God and running around and jumping, and they're astounded. And Peter says, when Peter saw it, that is the people, he addressed the people and he said, "Men of Israel, why do you wonder at this? Or why do you stare at us as though we, by our own power or piety, have made him, make him walk? So Jesus is saying, or Peter is saying, that it's not his ability, but rather it is through the power of Christ. And then this is a verse that's quoted. Now look and see the misquotes here, and also the ignoring of two significant words. I want to read. I looked for a translation, and I couldn't find it. There's possibly one out there where it has the word raised rather than glorified. But be that as it may, if you can show it to me, please do so. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, the God of our fathers. Now notice who's not mentioned here. Do any of you see Ishmael's name? No. So it's not the God of Ishmael, but it is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so we see the prophetic line. We see the Isaac as a child of promise because, and it's not Ishmael. Ishmael was a great nation, but he was not the child of promise. He was not in the covenant. But Isaac was, and of course Jacob was, and all the other fathers. That is, again, this is going through the Bnei Israel, the children of Israel. Glorified, not raised. Now, if you want to use raised, go ahead, because it means Jesus was raised from the dead, and that's you guys have to deny that. But God glorified. The word doxezo, to glorify, God glorified, and this is something that this type of glory only belongs to God, to Jesus. Certainly doesn't belong to any of the sons of Ishmael. And then we come to the word servant. Now he really tries to say, well, there it is. Jesus is a servant. Of course he's a servant. But it's not the word doulos, it's the word pais. And the word pais can also be translated child, a young child in the household who has a very special status regarding that. And it's also making reference back, I believe, to the servant passages in Isaiah, where Isaiah talks about the suffering servant. And in the Septuagint, the word here used here again is pais. So it's pointing us back to Isaiah the prophet, the book of Isaiah, or as I like to call it, the Gospel of Isaiah. And then it goes on, whom, and he stopped there, he's serving Jesus. Deliberately he stopped, without quoting the rest of the verb, who you delivered over and denied in the presence of Pilate when Pilate had decided to release him. In other words, he quoted half the verse. Now, all I can say is this individual, this Dawahist, who should be an embarrassment to Muslims because of his either ignorance or dishonesty, quotes half the verse, whom you delivered and denied in the presence of Pilate when he decided to let him go. What does that mean? It means that they delivered him, that is Jesus, over to Pilate to be what? To be crucified. Verse 14. But you denied the holy and righteous one. Both things are titles that belong to God and not just a mere Rasul or a mere prophet. And asked for a murderer to be granted to you. Pilate was willing to let Jesus go, but because of the political pressure, and Pilate wanted to keep his job rather than do what was right, granted a murderer. And so we see again the great exchange, the just for the unjust. And what does it say? And you, speaking of the Jews, his collective guilt, the author of life. Who is it speaking of? Jesus, whom God raised from the dead. And to this, and of course, there were many witnesses, but in this particular context, we're talking about Peter and John were witnesses to the resurrected Christ. Now, I just want to close with basically, who is the author of life in Islam? Who is the one who raises the dead in Islam? Who is the one of the titles of Allah is talks about being the life. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but through me. And so, my Muslim friends, I'm going to ask you, if you're going to quote scripture, quote them in context. And to my Christian friends, don't let these Dawahists flummox you. All you have to do is go to the passage, read the bits before and the bits afterwards. And in every case I've seen so far, in every case, the verses have been wrestled out of their context. They have not, and the individual posting it has not allowed the scriptures to speak for themselves. And so this is why I'm telling you that the Dawahists are the worst spokesman for Islam on planet Earth. And thank you so much for watching. God bless and have a great day.